Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. My special guest today, Todd McCullough. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Todd is the dog warden for Fairfield County.
Yeah. It's been 3 years now.
Has it really?
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
I remember when you were going to school and getting the degrees and
Yeah.
that. It's been 3 years. I
Yep, I
realize
graduated in 13.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's been a good ride.
That's super.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the shelter, hours, location,
Sure.
all those things.
This June, actually, we started new hours, so we're open 7 days a week. We're trying to be more accessible to people who have the normal 9 to 5 job. So we open at 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, and we're open until 7 p.m. now, which is 2 hours later.
Yeah.
And then Saturday and Sunday we're open from 11 to 3, so that we're
Wow.
available.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to come in and play with a dog while they're on the weekend, they're available. So.
That's fantastic. I didn't
Yeah.
know it. It's just off 37.
Yep. 37 across from Ohio University, Lancaster, right behind Beaver Field.
Yep. Okay.
So.
I know that people when they think about, they think about obviously dogs and coming off the streets. Talk a little bit about the operation of the dog shelter, because some people think that even funding.
Yeah.
Just talk a little bit about
Sure.
the shelter.
There's a lot of dynamics that go into running a dog shelter. There's everything from the business and the financial aspects that you have to be concerned with to medical welfare and health of the animals and operating all of that is pretty interesting process. We're funded primarily through dog licensing. So every year when you purchase your dog license, those funds go to support the work we do in the community throughout the year. So it's about 95% of our revenue is from dog licensing.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's, everything else is, a little bit here and there, but really dog licensing is our primary.
What's it take to maintain a dog? An average stay of a
Sure.
dog. Talk a little bit.
Yeah, so the average stay of a dog currently at the shelter is about 11 days, which is down from 15 days a little over a year ago, which is good. We love that. On average, it costs approximately $30 a day to care for a dog at the shelter, once you pay for all the food and staff and, the equipment and everything. So it's quite a lot of money when it really comes down to how much it can really take to care for a dog. When we go buy dog food, we're spending $500 to $700 on a skid of dog food versus a couple of bags.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. So how many dogs go through the shelter? Is it very?
Yeah. So over the last couple of years, and I think that this speaks to how spaying and neutering is working. About 3 years ago, there was 1,100 dogs that came through the shelter in a year. This year, it's about 800, and it's kind of been a slow decline over the last 5 to 10 years. But 800 is still a lot of dogs.
Oh, that's a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
My golly, so when these dogs, can people just bring you dogs, or are you out?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So our primary focus is finding and bringing in stray dogs from the street, dogs that are lost or running at large. But people do bring us their dogs. Sometimes it's just not working out, and they do what we call an owner surrender. Sometimes we get dogs from, we'll help Lancaster Police out or the Sheriff's Office out and bring a dog from somewhere. So it really just kind of varies.
Is there a certain breed of dog that you see more of?
Well, it kind of goes in spurts. In the fall we see a lot of hunting dogs, beagles and coon dogs and things like that. And then usually in the spring, for some reason, we'll see a lot of, shepherds or Australian shepherds. But really, we always have beagles, and we always have what I always call the good old Fairfield County mixed breed, which is it's a little bit of everything, so you can't really pinpoint it. But yeah.
Now, do you communicate with other dog facilities throughout the state?
Sure.
Is there a conference? Or?
Yeah. So there's the Ohio County Dog Wardens Association. All 88 counties are represented there. In addition to that, we work with a lot of humane societies, different counties. There's National Animal Control Association that we're all members of. So there's a lot of good resources out there for us to work together and to learn from.
Do you ever go to other places and look to see what they're doing?
Oh,
and
yeah.
how we're
Yeah.
stealing ideas. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because it's regional. Here, Franklin County's dog shelter is kind of the gold standard as far as the facility goes.
Sure.
And then you go some places in the South, and it's a cage out in somebody's backyard, and
boy.
and it can be anywhere in between there. So it's quite interesting, and everybody does things a little bit different. Everybody has their own philosophies. So you just kind of pick up the good of everything
Sure.
and try to run with it.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about shots and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you work, are veterinarians, are they?
Yes.
Okay.
So what we do is we have some really good relationships with local veterinarians here in town. They will work with us, and we call it the CURE program, which is care utilizing the recommendation of expert. So they'll give us advice on how to medically care for dogs. They'll help us when it terms if we do have some kind of a
Sure.
medical condition that we need to have addressed. We'll take them to them, and it's just everybody kind of gives a little, which ultimately makes up the whole, and so that's perfect for us.
Have you ever seen a dog and thought, oh my God, what happened here?
Yeah, every other day probably.
Oh,
I mean,
my.
it's
Oh my.
dogs that have been running for a long time, they can look pretty rough. Some dogs come from places that aren't very good, and they can look pretty rough. We've seen everything from dogs with no hair to dogs with pretty significant wounds to
Oh my.
severe injuries. Yeah.
Wow.
It's one of those jobs when you love dogs that you love being around dogs and seeing all the good, but then you also see bad too.
Sure.
And so you have to kind of compartmentalize and really keep your focus.
Right.
So.
What, now, I know you graduated from OU. And,
Sure.
What drew you to this job? What?
I wanted an opportunity to help the community. When in 2009, I lost my job to outsourcing, and I had the opportunity to go back to school through the help of Fairfield County. And so I wanted a job in which I could contribute back to this community because I've really grown to love
Sure.
it. I transplanted here. I'm not from here, but I chose to be here for a reason. And so my biggest focus was I wanted to have a positive impact and a way to kind of pay it back. So when this opportunity was around, I thought, well, this meets all the requirements, and it's something challenging and something that'll keep me busy, and
All right.
it's exactly what I was looking for.
When you the first day you were on a job, were you thinking, "Oh, we got to change that. We got to change that," or was it more?
No, it was deer in the headlights.
Okay.
You walk in, and it's hard to explain because there's so many nuances that I never knew, and I always kind of refer to it as before I knew. I thought things were this way, and then you just slowly kind of absorb and really take things in. Sure, there were things immediately that we thought we would change, but you always want to take your time when it comes to making significant changes because you don't want to rush something and then have it come back.
Right,
So.
absolutely. Talk a little bit about your staff. I know you've got a
Yeah.
good staff there.
Right now we're at 4 full-time positions. We have 6 approximately part-time positions that kind of rotate in and out. We've got diverse group, anything from graduates from Ohio University with computer programming to local police officers who are auxiliary officers.
Sure.
It's a diverse staff, and it really works out well that way because you get a lot of fresh ideas and fresh opinions.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And I know that October is Adopt a Shelter Dog Month.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
which is
and
kinda neat.
it's exciting. It's something that the ASPCA and the Humane Society started a couple years ago, and it's really exciting for us because it's one of those times where we can put a focus on the value of shelter dogs. I always talk to people about the value of dogs because not only are they wonderful animals, but they add value to our community.
Right.
And Adopt a Shelter Dog Month is a great opportunity to showcase that.
Talk about if I want to adopt a dog, what do I have to do?
So you come into the shelter. We have a form that you fill out. It kind of gets you to think through everything. Have you prepared, or do you have everything you're going to need? Then you come in. If you meet a dog that you have a connection with, you play with it, and you're good to go. It's
Really?
Yeah. It's the adoption fee is $115, and then. Let me take that back. $110 and then a $15 license. So And that covers all the,
Sure.
the surgery, the shots, the wellness exams, the heartworm, all of those things. Microchip.
Right.
So
Let's say that I adopt a dog, and after a week, I'm just it's not working out.
Sure.
Dog comes back, or
yeah, I mean, people have brought dogs back.
Okay.
It's something that, we always try to offer suggestions and alternatives first.
Right,
Sure. Because we're a county shelter, and so we have to always have room for more. We don't turn anything away necessarily when it comes to strays and things like that. So we always try to see if there's a way we can help first. But if they really need to bring the dog back, we'll take it back. And give it a new opportunity.
if people can't make it, is there a website people can go to look at the dogs? Or?
Sure, yeah, you can go online, and really, I just tell people, our web address is so complicated, I just tell people to Google Fairfield County Dog Adoption Center and Shelter, and we'll be right there, and you can click on that, and there's always a live feed of what dogs are available for adoption.
Okay.
So as soon as one is adopted, it comes off the list, and
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
11 days is the average. Is that
yeah,
right?
it's about 10 and a half.
Sure.
So.
And there's an event coming up.
Sure.
It's Microchip. You talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
So next Saturday, which would be October 15th,
Uh-huh.
we're hosting a microchip awareness education event at Ohio University Lancaster in their parking lot. At the event, we're going to have $5 microchips for the first 50 people that come that want microchips. We're going to have a representative from Merck Animal Health who's going to be registering microchips for lifetime of the animal,
Right.
to help with that. What we've come to find is that about 90% of the dogs that come into the shelter that do have microchips, they're not properly registered, or they're not current.
my.
Yeah, so it's really kind of frustrating when you scan and you find a microchip and you think, all right, great,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
got an owner, and then you call and there's no registration to it, or the person didn't renew. A lot of people, there's a lot of different ways that microchip companies handle microchips. You have to renew things. You have to pay. Sometimes you have to pay annual fees, and that's not always explained clearly up front. So people don't know.
Sure.
So we wanted to do this as an opportunity to bring people in and let them register their chip for free, so that we will always have the ability to find their dog.
That's neat. Now, is this a ongoing process, or is this something just started, or?
It's something that we've been thinking about for a while. We're really focusing on returning dogs to owners. That's kind of my number one priority when it comes to, once we get a dog in, is trying to find its home.
Right.
So that we can get it back, so we don't have to adopt it, and that leaves the next spot open for the next dog. So microchipping is definitely something that we've been focusing on, trying to improve the education and the awareness of.
Right. You mentioned earlier about dog license. That's where your fees come from. Do people have to have a dog's license?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Ohio law that
Okay.
every dog is licensed and registered with the county auditor, and then we're the ones that kind of enforce that.
Okay, so if someone has a dog, they buy this year and don't get the license next year, do you follow up on that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll follow up on it, and there's a lot of different options now. It used to be just 1-year dog license. Now you
Right.
can buy a 3-year dog license. You can buy a lifetime dog
How much
license.
is a dog license?
It's $15
Okay.
for a 1 year, so it'd be $45 for a 3-year, and then $150 for a lifetime license.
It used to be you get them different places. Do you
Yeah.
come to, where can you get them?
During the course of the year, you can get them at the Fairfield County Auditor's Office or at the dog shelter. If you want a lifetime license or one of those special like 3-year licenses, you have to go to the auditor's office. During the time of year when licenses go on sale, which is December through January, there are a lot of locations where you can purchase dog licenses. Everywhere from Kroger's to drive-thrus to different locations.
I had an individual ask me, do you do dog training classes?
We do not. We do not currently have a dog trainer on our staff that would be able to do that. The Humane Society does have a dog trainer, and they do classes. And there are other really good organizations in this community that do that kind of thing. We don't, honestly, we're so busy running around going after dogs and trying to find their homes to really focus on that.
Yeah. And when, I guess the process when somebody sees a dog, maybe run through the neighborhood, call or should they call? Okay.
740-687-DOGS, 3647. And if it's during the day, then you'll be able to reach us there, and we'll be able to come out and hopefully get the dog and,
Sure.
and get it secure and safe, and then find the owner. And then after hours, depending on the level of emergency, if it's an emergency situation, obviously we're going to call sheriff's office or something
Sure.
like that, and they'll get a hold of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just call us or let us know in some way if it's like a continuing problem, and we'll be happy to go out and take care of it.
Capacity right now for dog? How many dogs can you handle?
We have 52 cages. That doesn't
52.
mean
Wow.
yeah, that doesn't mean we like to have 52
Sure.
dogs. There's a capacity aspect there. We about 43 dogs is when it starts to just feel a little too crowded.
Okay.
This year we've been very fortunate. We even emptied the shelter at one point.
No dogs?
No dogs.
Wow, that's
no
good.
dogs that were available for
Yeah,
adoption. We
sure,
had one
sure.
or two that were on hold for
Yeah,
something, but
right.
yeah, no dogs available for adoption. That was in February. This year we've been able to keep it about 30 to 33, which is pretty comfortable for us.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you work with other counties that if they're overcrowded or you're
Yeah,
overcrowded?
it's one of those things where I think everybody knows that they can always turn to somebody, but there's not really any formal relationships like that. I think that that's something that's coming though, because as counties see different fluctuations, I think that other counties realize, hey, this could be an opportunity for us if we are in a tough spot, that we could reach out to maybe Fairfield. Maybe they don't have any dogs, and they could
Right.
send one or two down or something like that to help them out.
Future plans? I mean, obviously, if somebody said, "Here, Todd, we'll give you the money," what would you do?
Well, there's a lot of ways that we could really improve the community through dogs. We've talked about creating therapy dog programs to try to help
yeah.
to rehabilitate our dogs and also have them be helpful to others in the community. There's a lot of different ideas. Really, you have to do what you're supposed to do well first, and that's kind of our focus. That's been our focus.
And who guides you? What rules do you have?
So we report to the Fairfield County Commissioners.
Okay.
So, but we follow state ORC, and and then we help each city in the county pretty much has some sort of a relationship where we go and we help there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna develop this and make it a little bit bigger. And gee, what do I want to do next? More cages? I mean, what? Somebody said, "Here's a check. Go do what you want to do."
Well, the number one thing that we need is a good quarantine area, good quarantine facility.
Quarantine being like 2 days a day or whatever.
However many days it takes to keep the dog safe.
What's the longest quarantine?
It just depends on the disease.
Okay.
When a dog comes into the shelter, the ideal would be to have them separated from the general population as much as possible for several days to a week, to just to make sure that they're not carrying any kind of disease, because we have no idea.
Right.
And then that way it keeps our general population safe. Right now we do that through just kind of dividing rooms and things like that, but it would be wonderful to have a place where we could put them on the other side of the building or something like that.
Wow, that would be.
It's one of those things. You heard about everything that was going on in Franklin County earlier this year,
Right.
and they have very adequate, in a lot of ways, really good quarantine areas, and it's still a concern. So to us, that's probably the number one.
Yeah. Now, because you cover entire Fairfield County, is there more dogs in this area as opposed to this area because of population, or is it just?
I wouldn't say more dogs per person. It's pretty much, it seems the same. We get a lot of dogs, obviously, from Lancaster, Pickerington, northwest part of the county.
Yeah.
But it's usually the types of dogs and what they're doing. So in Pickerington, we much more often find dogs just kind of roaming around the suburb, street, the neighborhood, and sniffing trash cans. Whereas out, somewhere in southern part of the county, we find a dog that's just completely lost out and has been wandering, trying to find its home or whatever for a couple of days.
Advice to someone who sees a dog that I mean, we talked about calling in, but if a dog's sitting there and
if you can, I always tell people, never put yourself at risk, and you always have to remember to respect dogs, because while dogs are very commonly very friendly and very happy, they still do pose a risk. So if you can get control of the dog safely, then do so. But if not,
Sure.
don't. But always just give us a call. Some people choose to keep the dog at their house and just notify us until we find an owner, or some people will bring it in, or sometimes we'll go get them. Just it kind of depends on what's right for the situation.
So we were talking about finances earlier in the dog licenses. Do you get any other funding from anybody involved? I mean, just people who donate to the dog shelter?
Yeah, we get donations. Typically, we defer those to other organizations that are like nonprofit groups,
Sure.
like the Humane Society, things like that. So the donations make up a relatively small part of what we bring in. I mean, people do want to donate to us, so we of course
Sure.
we will
Oh,
accept that. But the other forms, there are fees associated if you have a dog that's come to the shelter and has been there for a week and we've been caring for it. There's fees associated with that,
Sure.
and then adoption fees, things like
Right.
that. Really, that's it.
Yeah. The have you ever a dog come in and you thought, well, I'm going to take that dog home with me?
Yeah, definitely. I've brought 2 dogs home with me
Oh, really?
so far. One of which was here the last time we were here. And
That's
then,
right. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, he was pretty sick then.
Uh-huh.
And then the other one is a hound mix that is my son's best friend. So it's been really great. We all have had it. We've all had that one dog that for whatever reason, it's just, we feel that connection, we have to get it.
Sure.
So
I did have another viewer ask about dog shows. Involved in dog shows, is that something that you guys?
it's not really something that we get too involved with
Okay.
because there's usually when you have a dog show, if there's any kind of violation of law, it's going to be a humane kind of a situation.
Okay.
So the Humane Society will usually focus on that. I would imagine more than we do anyway. But that doesn't. I like to go to dog shows and watch and learn
Sure.
because it's a great opportunity to learn and see and get to know things that are going on.
What's an average dog eating dog food? I mean,
Over the course of a day, just a couple of cups, but when you take that by 40,
Sure.
and then you do that a couple of times a day or whatever it might be, it adds up pretty quick.
no, I've got to ask this because do dogs just, some will eat the dog food and some don't like it? What do you do?
Well, it's kind of funny because a lot of times we get creative. We'll mix some wet food in there. We'll, if it's maybe this type of food, we'll try a different kind of food.
Yeah.
But typically, we try to keep them all on one diet.
Uh-huh.
That way, that we know if there is some kind of a stomach bug or something
Sure.
going around, we can kind of manage what we know.
Yeah.
But we get dogs with no teeth all the time, so they can't
Really?
eat big kibble and stuff like that. So
Oh,
yeah,
my.
soft foods and things like that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Are the hours again that people go?
So Monday through Friday,
Okay.
it's 10 to 7 p.m.
All right.
10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, it's 11 to 3 p.m. that we're there.
Tours, if like schools want to come through, or
Yeah.
are you available for that?
Yeah, definitely. They just have to contact us, let us know that they're interested. We go to schools a lot to visit, to talk about safety
Okay.
and education. The shelter it's gone through a lot of changes in the last 3 years. If you haven't been there in 3 years and you go inside, it's going to look completely different.
I was there about a year ago.
Did it look different?
yeah, absolutely.
Was that before we added windows in the kennels?
yeah.
So I mean, it's just
Yeah.
we're trying to make the environment good for the animals, for the people, and for the visitors. So
Sure.
it's continually improving.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest misconception is about?
People still think that we go out and we just want to take people's dogs, and they still think that we just bring them all back, and after 2 days or 3 days, they're all euthanized, and that's just not the way it is.
Yeah.
First, I'd prefer to keep people's dogs in their homes. That's where they belong, and that's where we want them to be. And then when it comes to euthanasia and things like, we're at a point where the only time we ever have to really deal with that is if there's a dog that's really sick,
Sure.
severely injured, or has some kind of serious behavioral issue.
Right. That's amazing. If Todd McCullough were not doing this, what would Todd be doing?
Helping the community
Yeah.
some way or another. That's what I would be doing. If I could do anything to help this community, I will.
Yeah. The right guy for the right job, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And
Appreciate it.
Is there any campaigns to raise money for the dogs? Somebody asked me that.
No, not really. Like I said, we tend to focus on making sure that people are buying their dog licenses and complying with the law.
Okay.
So that's our focus. The Humane Society, always is raising money, and so we just try to focus on doing our job, which should and then bring back revenue to keep us operating.
Yeah, right.
So.
Well, again, I've heard nothing but good things. I mean, and we've known each other a long time, and it's like I said, it's the right guy for the right job, and we wish you the best of luck. And one more time, website, phone number, if people have anything.
The website, it's best just to Google Fairfield County Dog Adoption Center. Phone number 740-687-DOGS 3647. You can look us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. There's all kinds of ways.
All those things I don't know how to use.
Yeah. Well, it's a good time to learn.
Absolutely.
You get to watch videos of dogs.
Fantastic. Well, Todd McCullough, we appreciate you coming on and talking about the Fairfield County Dog Shelter and all the different things that you do there. And we wish you the best of luck and keep up the good work, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. And remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.